Hi everybody, and welcome back to my channel. Of course, I'm A.S. Aurelia, author of Hunting the Empress, which book 2 is in the works right now. Getting ready to finish up some stuff with that. The art is looking fantastic so far, so stay tuned for that. You can get a copy of this via my website. The link to how to get it is there, Amazon. Okay, so today we are going to be discussing past lives. We're spilling the tea on past lives, NDEs or OBEs as they used to be called, which is near-death experience or out-of-body experience. I think they're kind of different, definitely. A near-death experience is straight up you're like dying, but then you come back into your body. We're going to be discussing some astrological stuff that has to do with how you can find out who you were in a past life and whatnot. But as you know, within my book, if you've read it, and if you haven't, the subject matter of past lives and reincarnation is brought up more than once in here. There is a heavy emphasis on this in there, and there's a reason for that. That is because, much like my dreams, how I did in the other video, when I'm speaking about how I use dreams to write, that's not the only thing. A lot of the location stuff, some of it, most of it, honestly, that is brought up in my book is actually locations in which that I can recall a past life. There it is. Hey, what's up? He's totally looking at me. So yeah, I'm on point here, okay? He has to say something too. So in the book, we have a lot of this emphasis. This is something that has fascinated me my entire life, probably because when I was very small, like I can remember the very early moments of my life, even being born and just knowing, this is weird, this is awkward, this is strange, this is not my home, this is not where I'm from, blah, 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 blah. You know, just having that feeling of recognition where you know you're in a not your usual place. When I was very young, I would have, I just knew that there were certain locations and certain places they would come through dreams, or I would just have memories of specific people, specific locations. This is quite a common thing. And more now than ever, the children that are being born have this ability. They're just so, I think it's because, I think this is more of an accepted concept now, because they actually have proof that reincarnation is not a joke. It is something that is real. It is something to consider. So if you are a closed-minded person or a skeptical person, I'm asking you to open your mind and, you know, think outside the box for a moment and think of all the times in life where you have felt like, God, I've been here before, or why do I like this? I don't even know why. Or, you know, you feel extraordinarily attracted to specific people and you just don't understand why. Why do you like this specific thing? Believe me, there's a reason for it, because it's leading you on your journey, number one, to your soulmates often, and as well as memories from who you once were. So to continue on, like if you want to learn more about this, there are several authors. First off, if you're on social media, there is a guy named Michael Armstrong, and he's pretty popular on TikTok. He has like, I think like 1 million followers or more than that or something. I don't even know. I don't care about that kind of stuff. I care about quality of content. And he does this. He talks about past lives and especially children. And he often cites the University of Virginia studies with this because yes, they have been studying past lives for a couple decades now and have undeniable proof where children can literally remember past lives, and then they go and they research it, and sure enough, they find those exact people. They can recall faces, like they can recall friends. There was, I forget his name. There's a specific boy who, he went down in his plane in World War II, and they began working with him, and he could recall everybody's names, his friends' names on the boats, what happened that day, everything. Sure enough, they looked it up. They took him out onto the boat. He took them to where the plane went down and they found it. Not only that, but he knew stuff, and like the people who were like his shipmates and stuff like this who like worked with him or whatever, they met him and he was literally knew stuff that only they could know. So yeah, that's just one instance. But this is something that is a phenomenon that has happened for millions of people all over planet Earth, different cultures, different creeds, different countries. It doesn't matter. This is a commonality. And every single major religion out there has some sort of concept of an afterlife. Even like the ancients, I know for Greece, and the belief was that you would die and you would go to the fields or whatever. If you were an okay person, obviously if you were a bad person, Tartarus, you're going down. But it's like you would go to the fields and you would like hang out and chill and live the good life for like 100 years, but then you would have to go back. So it's not just finito, cut and dry. Do you go to a heavenly place? Sure. Do you return? Yes. If your lessons aren't learned and you haven't figured stuff out all the way, or you just want to be a guide for somebody else, which is often a thing. So a famous author, one of the famous authors, there's several, okay, who have written about this or studied it. One of them is Dr. Brian Weiss. I love this book, Only Love is Real. This is a really fucking cool book. I cried hard when I read it. I'm getting emotional right now because I totally get it. Absolutely. And then this one came before. It's Many Lives, Many Masters. I have not read this one yet. I just got it. But I've been meaning to read it. I've just been so busy, obviously, doing other things. So, and this is like mainly the kind of reads that I do. Believe it or not, I write fiction, but I don't read a lot of it. I read like really intriguing, like I love history and I love stuff, anything having to do with astrology, the occult. I do love ghost stories or reading stuff about paranormal activity, whatever. These things fascinate me. I do like hearing or reading or studying or just like going online and searching about like various religious beliefs of different people just to see the commonality. And it cracks me up that people fight over. This is something people constantly fight over and kill each other over, yet on a fundamental basis, everybody believes the same thing, which I think is absurd. So anyway, and again, it ties back because inherently what's coming for you and what's about to happen. So death comes for us all. It is something you cannot escape. So it's good to make peace with it. And there's nothing dirty or scary or bad about it. And that is what I love so much about this subject matter. And yes, you do reunite with people that you love, that you've been with multiple times. It's fascinating stuff. I highly recommend looking into it and reading about it because, I mean, literally in this book, holy crap, like they talk about it like completely. Who was it? Dolores Cannon, Brian Weiss, Dr. Michael Newton is another one. Again, you want to look at the University of Virginia studies on this. I will put a link in the drop-down box so you can go head over there and look at it yourself. It's so funny because I grew up in a very karmic area for me, which I'm going to get into how the astrology ties into the reincarnation stuff, in a very karmic area for me. It was straight up really harsh. If you're an astrologer, imagine if you know what I'm talking about. If you don't know what I talk about, Google this, look it up. Living on a Saturn line, a Saturn ley line, a Saturn IC on the angle, on the IC, okay? I literally have Saturn on the IC at 0 degrees. Ugh. Very, very harsh. Moved to a different location where now I'm on the Venus ascendant line and things are a whole hell of a lot better. Let me just put it to you that way. But I was meant to be born into that area for a specific reason. Saturn is one of the key planets to look at within your natal chart that does show you where some karma lies. It's also your greatest fear, but it also is where you are the strongest. Mine's in Gemini, which is, of course, a writer. And then your Chiron placement is another one. I highly recommend this book. Looking at this book hit hard. Okay. I'm not even done reading all through it. I've had it for a while. I have so many astrology books. I collect them. But this is The Rainbow Bridge Between the Inner and Outer Planets by Barbara Hand Clow. This one is gnarly. Straight up, I'm just going to say it. I was reading in it when I had my sibling passed away. And when I was reading about his particular stuff, what happens is before you turn the age of 50, a lot of people, if they haven't worked and tried to work on healing their wound, their Chiron wound, they choose to pass away. And that's kind of what happened. Your Chiron line does tell you where you have a serious wound that often does come from past life stuff. So actually doing past life regression therapy, or even just starting off, like if you can't afford that right away or something, or you can't find somebody in your area, there are plenty of meditations. And Michael Armstrong is one of the people who actually has some that you can do to start helping to recall like what occurred, to help. It does heal pain. Dolores Cannon is one of the people who actually figured this out. That when we recall certain past lives, it actually helps heal physical ailments in the body. Don't even question it, because it actually does work for many people. So it's something that you definitely want to keep open mind to and look into. But your Chiron is your wound. If you look in the mythology of Chiron and who he was and what he's about, it makes a whole hell of a lot of sense. I highly recommend this book. And especially if you have Chiron aspected very harshly, yeah, and it's more than just one placement within your natal chart that shows you where past life stuff is. You have to look at it the whole, especially with the South Node. I'm going to get into that in just a second. In fact, let's talk about the Yesterday's Sky. This book is by Stephen Forrest. It's Astrology and Reincarnation. This book is the shit. Okay, I love Stephen Forrest stuff because when he writes, it's not like your typical standard cookbook stuff. It's like reading a novel, kind of the way that he explains it. It's so beautifully written and kind of poetic. So like you get it really, really good, and you're not bored when you're reading it. I mean, it's very well thought out. But this book goes deep into past life stuff. So with all of my memories that I've had with this throughout my childhood and going into adulthood, and like I've done past life regression, meditations plenty, and had recalls and everything else. And before I even knew about this, before I really went deep into, because I literally sought this information out to try to get more answers, to understand why things were so difficult in certain areas of my life and stuff like this. So when I started doing this, it was just enlightenment. It was so freaking like a relief, a helpful, at least on my end of things. But then when you're constantly having to deal with somebody who opens wounds constantly, it's really hard because you want to help them to like try to work through it and explain it. But if they don't listen or they're too narcissistic, good luck to you. It's like being in hell. And then you just have to make a decision if you're going to just go your own way or whatever. Sometimes that's what you have to do. But you understand that why this person came into your life was to help you to grow spiritually, believe it or not. But after doing the recalls and writing down all my memories and having, remembered stuff since I was a childhood, I finally learned the technique to go and look it up to see if indeed, like through this book and some other information as well, because I always cross-reference. I don't go with one source. I cross-reference. I read different things. I go online. I do all kinds of stuff to gather information from everywhere. And then I consolidate to look at the main themes, like, okay, what is repeating here? Obviously, this is what everybody agrees on, blah, 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 So after doing this, and I pulled up my own, like, the relocation charts for these specific areas, as well as looking at prenatal eclipses. This is another technique that's really freaking whoa. Definitely falls in line with like the South Node and what he talks about in here. I could see exactly. There are indicators of, yes, you've lived in this place. This is what you experienced. And my jaw was on the ground. I couldn't believe it. I was just blown away. And I mean, I was like chills, the whole 9 yards. I was just shocked. And yes, these two tie in together very well. I highly recommend doing the recalls stuff first. But if you are feeling drawn to, if you've always like wanted to go somewhere, or if like, especially if you, not just always like good thoughts, but if you have like some kind of disdain towards a specific place and you don't even know why, look it up. Okay. If you guys are interested in how to do this, leave a comment and I will do a post showing you how you can figure it out. Because I'm not a gatekeeper, I want you guys to learn. And this is why I'm showing you these books so that you can start your own journey to figure yourself out, basically. Astrology is a beautiful thing because it helps you to understand the other. Not only just yourself, to understand yourself better, but also to understand other people. Because this is ancient astrology. Remedies. This is what the ancient used to help to heal people. It's fascinating stuff. It's not the crap you read in a newspaper about your sun sign, or like, not a newspaper. God, I just dated myself so hard. But yes, like everybody used to look in the newspaper and, to read their horoscope for the day, or, websites. There's tons of those, but you really have to go specifically on your own chart. Okay. That's real general shit. And it's not real helpful most of the time. You have to like legit, like, tailor it to your needs, and you want to go off your rising sign, not your sun sign. So this is a new one that I just got. This is an old book, but it's called Astrology, Karma, and Transformation, The Inner Dimensions of the Birth Chart by Stephen Arroyo. This is a book that was recommended by a person who I am taking a karma astrology course from. I will be going over that like in the coming weeks because it's a long ass course. I also want to recommend the Hades Moon. Oh, this is a doozy because Pluto, of course, Hades, has very karmic stuff attached to it. And if you have Pluto aspects to your moon often indicates some past life stuff, as you will read in Stephen Forrest's book here, especially if you have it aspecting a node. My moon is conjunct the south node, y'all. Okay. Yeah. So, but this one, you want to know why you have difficulties with certain relationships or certain people and you can't figure it out? Wow. Okay. Especially if you have an aspect, like heavy aspects to Pluto and the moon, especially with synastry charts or composite charts of people. Just trust me. Oh my God, my parents. That's all I have to say. Anyways, so we also have your prenatal eclipse. These are Rose Linneman books. And I had to get these used. Okay, well, at least this one right here. This is the astrological guidepost. This is like an older book, but I wanted all of them to go together. I do love collecting like out of print astrology books just to compare them. Like, cause sometimes, I mean, like trying to find like stuff on Arabic points or lunar mansions is kind of hard because that's really ancient stuff. But anyhow, let's get into this now. So I just showed you and I was explaining a little bit about that. Definitely check out the University of Virginia website because it's pretty awesome shit. So as I mentioned, some of the locations that I mentioned in this book obviously are recall spots for me, places where I've had past lives. Japan definitely is one of them. And that was a friggin' like really sad, like what happened there. Okay. At the end. Because I definitely remember how I died. It was totally fucking tragic. Excuse my language. But it was. I remember ancient Egypt. Now, I want to say something. When I say Egypt, you guys need to understand that this spanned thousands of years. It wasn't just King Tut, okay? That's so limited. I mean, we're talking thousands of years this culture existed, and it was a mega power and a major port. Also, people would come there and do trade. They made reference to sea people that would come in and come and go. And some people think that those were possibly Vikings, which I wholeheartedly believe because they were everywhere. And they were not raiding to, everyone, when they think of Viking, they think of more like the berserker type thing. If you don't know what that is, look it up. but mostly they were just traders, and they would go and they would trade spices, fabric. They were really innovative people, and a very interesting society because women were often the chieftains and warriors and everything else. So yeah, that's another place. Okay, and specifically, and definitely the Egypt. I remember the Roman Empire. Okay, that was an interesting life. But there's one life in particular that is really painful to me, and I like have hate and disdain for this life, and it was having to do with, I was male and I was working like the basically like a page, I guess is what you could call it, for a guy who was basically a Knight of Templar. And if you study and you understand the Knights of Templar, they were like these glory boys for a while, but then all of a sudden, when certain people came into power, they were basically demonized and stuff. And there's a lot of heavy duty religious overtones with that life that were real nasty and not pleasant. And it's like every time I've like had flashes of it, I don't even want to remember it because it's that bad. And I hated it. So I definitely know that's why I have specific attitudes towards people who try to force religion down your throat or something like this. I just like automatically I get dander up because I know it's just like, you can't do that to people. It's bad. Nothing good comes of it. Okay. So definitely stems from that. So I do make reference to some of the stuff in here. And then in book 2, there's even more stuff that's really interesting. But there are definite people. And I did mention in my dream video that this does tie into the reincarnation thing, is that I was having a series of dreams that kept happening, and there was specific people involved, like a guide type, but then the other one wasn't, it's like not really a guide. It was almost like a person. It's like they were, like we were actually like kind of involved in a relationship that would just continue on, and we would get to know each other like in every single dream. They were really tall. They had an accent. I don't want to give too much away about what they look like. If you want to read the book that I wrote, it definitely gives you a bit of description. Okay, definitely. And they had a bit of an accent, and it was an accent that I wasn't familiar with because I grew up in an area where mainly like the main accents that I would hear all the time were definitely Hispanic accents of different Hispanic countries, like all the time. I would hear, anybody like Korean, Japanese, some Chinese, definitely. I would hear these were common accents, but this in particular was not one that I heard very much. And it was just driving me crazy because I wanted to know why does it sound familiar to me? Number one. And number two, why haven't I heard this in this lifetime very much, And it's like, the more I got to know this person, the more like, it was like an adventure. It was so much fun. It's like every time I would like go and they would go to sleep, I would be dreaming and we would be like interacting with each other and talking. And he was like, and very protective, I guess you could say. Always like, we were like going on adventures and like traveling and going places and stuff like this. It was really interesting. And so then there was the guide, I definitely like more like a guide, who kept saying, you need to meet my son. You need to meet my son. And I'm like, well, is this your son? And it was like, whenever he was about to tell me who they were and give me more information, I would wake up and it would drive me fucking crazy. And so finally, this just kept happening, and I would wake up and I would be like, check it out. And I would tell my husband about this. He's like, damn. He's like, that's pretty detailed and stuff. He's like, God, it sounds like it's almost like a book. And I'm like, and then, it's like every time I've told people the story, they're like, before I even was writing my book, they're like, you should write a book. So, anyway, so it's like everything, I'm not going to get into gory details. I'm just not going to. Okay. But let me just put you this way. Things got more intense as time went on. And it was like weird because when I would wake up, I would feel different. And it was just like, oh my God, weird. And then my daughter kept coming up to me, and this was the real creepy part, saying, I want a brother. I want a brother. And I'm like, yeah, in your dreams, because like after I had my daughter, we had made up our mind we didn't want to have any more kids. We just wanted one. That was enough. My birthing experience back then sucked. It was so bad. I had no pain-killing drugs whatsoever when I gave birth, because the people who were my physicians at the time, or my doctors, my main one, who was a female, would be like, oh, you don't want to get an epidural because it'll like cause damage to the baby and all this other kind of, it can cause them to like have health problems later on and all this other shit. Don't listen to that, ladies. Just get an epidural, trust me. Because the second time around, I used it. I actually enjoyed giving birth. It wasn't a horrible thing. If a pain relief thing exists such as this to ease your pain and help you to labor and give birth, use it. Don't let anybody guilt trip you into thinking you can't, okay? Screw those people have a special place in hell, okay? Tartarus, all right? Anyway, so fast forward, we're you need to meet my son, you need to meet my son. Then my daughter's sitting there saying, oh, I want a brother, I want a brother. I'm going to have a brother. I'm like, no, you're not. And we were, using birth control at the time, and we had been for like 7 years and never had a problem. So dreams kept going, kept getting more intense and stuff, and this kept going on. Like, oh, you need to meet my son. He's very important. You need to meet my son. It's very important. And I'm like, well, who's your son? And every time I'd wake up, and then my kid would kept going, oh, my brother, my brother. I'm like, at this point. So it was weird, because then I started to like do more research and like look into this, because it was creeping me out kind of, and I started going deeper into like, experiences with angels, experience with, guides. I went down the path of near-death experience, which did happen to me when I was like 13 years old. But it's like I started doing as much research as I could. Back then, though, like on the internet and stuff, there was limited information, because things weren't really picking up yet. We didn't have the fast internet connections that we do today, and people just weren't putting that information out there. And so I had to like literally go to libraries, look up books, whatever. And I was just trying to figure out what was happening, because I knew this wasn't normal. So I started going up to like, researching metaphysical bookstores and stuff to go get information about this. So as I'm in one of them one day, I walk in, and there was this huge advertisement for a Beltane festival that was happening not far from my house, next to this lake. And I'm like, oh, this sounds so cool. And there's like all these international performers at it. And there was going to be music. And it was just like, for people who were like full on, like people who were like, into whatever. Okay. Like magic, witchy stuff, whatever. It was for anybody. It was very like a very cool thing. Like kind of what I write about in my book. This is where the inspiration came from for this in my book. Okay. The Gathering. Okay. So I go to this thing. This is crazy. As I mentioned, we had been using birth control for 7 years and nothing went wrong with it. Right. So Beltane, of course, if you don't understand what Beltane is, it is May Day, is when we dance around the maypole. And the whole purpose of it is fertility, to bless the people, like the ancient people, like would dance around the maypole. So, and they would pair off to, they would make commitments to each other to procreate and have babies. So that's what this is for. So we go to this festival. There's a ton of people there. They have stages. They have booths everywhere. They have belly dancers. They have this huge maypole, huge, like erected. And that, of course, is the pole is piercing the earth, representing, the union of male and female. And so, I mean, it's just beautiful. And it's so crazy because it had been raining for like weeks. And then on the day of the festival, on the fucking 1st of May, the rains had stopped like the night before. And it was just blue skies and fluffy clouds. And it was so green and so beautiful outside. It was just, very, very trippy. So we go to this thing and there's like, I mean, it's just so much action. There's singers there and from all different like different types of singing, like, throat singers, all kinds of stuff, all from all over the world. There's belly dancers going, doing performances that were fucking amazing. There was actual DJs, like playing techno type music, EDM stuff. And, I mean, it was just so much fun. And there's like families and there's kids running around everywhere. And the kids went off and were playing together. It was surreal. Okay. There was like, food trucks, you name it, they had it. So then it came time to dance around the maypole. And the women who were putting on the festival were straight up priestesses. Okay. And they had great energy. And they were walking around and they were telling everybody, hey, we're about to do the maypole. Do you want to join? Be over here at this time. We're like, okay. So my daughter jumped up and was like, so they start doing it and they're announcing it over the loudspeaker and they're like right by where we were sitting. The priestesses are sitting, they're like standing right there. So the priestesses are standing right there. My daughter runs up and she joins hands with the priestess. And so everybody starts to fill in. And so they're saying, hey, if anybody wants to get pregnant or is looking to bring a lot of abundance or fertility into their life, I need you to go to the middle right now and stand next to the pole. Be right next to the pole, because this is where we're going to project all of our energy into whoever that is to bring them fertility into their life. Nobody went. Everybody, we all just like laughed and we're like, no, we don't want kids. Sorry, no. And so everybody's giggling and we're looking at each other laughing, ha, 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 right? And everybody's like kind of like shy and reserved and nobody's like wanting to be like, yeah, I want all that fertility or whatever, Nobody's going to do that. So at least they weren't, because they were just too afraid of getting pregnant, I think, or having a kid. And they were just like, no. And if you've lived in the Bay Area, the cost of living, I wouldn't want to either. But that's not exactly what happened here. So anyway, everybody's filling in and there's just like hundreds of people grabbing and everyone's holding hands. And then there's the priestesses and my daughter. And then there's this empty space. And then there's a dude. And then there's like, and it's just this empty space. No one was filling this empty space. And I'm sitting there and I just like had this sudden urge. And then it's like this overwhelming feeling like, bitch, get up and go over there and fill that hole. So I did. So I ran up there, grabbed my daughter's hand, grabbed this stranger's hand, and we did our little like grounding exercise or whatever before we were going to do the actual maypole. And then we picked up our ribbons and we started doing the dance. And people were kind of like reserved as normal, like where you're kind of shy because you're around strangers. Ooh, I don't want to touch somebody who's a stranger. But it's like, I don't give a damn about that. I'm pretty bold when it comes to that. And, when it comes to it, it's like, if it's going to be for the good, I'm not going to be afraid of another human being. So we get up there, we start moving, and everybody is like, as the more we go, because you're having to go up and over, and you're like brushing next to people you don't know. And that feeling of being uncomfortable or being scared of another person completely goes away. You don't care. You are laughing. You are having so much friggin' fun, because it is. It's hilarious kind of to watch. It's like, because you're like channeling your inner child and you're just free and you're just being human and enjoying life in that moment. It's fantastic. So, and that's what everybody was experiencing, and you could feel it coming off the crowd. And I mean, I'm surrounded by metaphysical practitioners of all kinds and stuff when we're doing this. So we're like going and we're doing the thing and we're getting closer and closer and everybody's laughing and screaming and just, because like you're like really close and you're starting to bump into each other. And then we get to the very end, and guess who's in the very center on the pole? Me. I ended up right in the middle, and I'm touching the frickin' pole. And then they were calling out, okay, everybody, touch the ground, pull up the energy of the earth and project it forward into the people in front of you towards the pole. And like, they're literally asking for abundance and fertility and that everybody's blessed and, has a beautiful year and all this other kind of stuff, saying the most amazing shit. And everybody is projecting this energy into the pole. And I'm right there. And it's just like, wow, this is intense, you know, and I could feel it. And I'm just like, wow. And I often wonder, like, the people who are on the other side of me, like, what happened to them? Like, what was the deal with them? Like, what did they experience? But after it was over, we, you know, went about our business. 2 weeks later, I was pregnant. Yeah, pregnant with my son. You have to meet my son, right? So I'm pregnant with my son. Shocked the crap out of us. You know, of course, I didn't know 2 weeks just directly after. It was like after that, but that's like when it happened. Like when because you can tell by counting back the weeks from when your pregnancy starts or whatever, or when you find out. So it was around that time. Yeah, like about 2 weeks after I was pregnant. So what's so weird is I kept, you know, like, I had been having all these dreams and it was very intense and stuff. Those dreams started to slow. They went away eventually after that. And then all I could think about was the accent that I was hearing and stuff like this. And, you know, and I knew this was a boy. And everybody's, oh, you're pregnant. Oh, look at the way you're carrying. It's going to be a girl. I'm like, it's a boy. Both my pregnancies, I knew what it was. Okay. Without even getting the thing, sonogram or whatever. I knew exactly the sex of my children. And so, sure enough, you know, I found out it was a boy. And, okay, here comes the part where we have to name the child. So I kept researching and I was obsessed with that accent. So I started researching it and, you know, I'm like, well, it sounds kind of like German, but it's not German. You know, what is this? You know? So I'm flipping through the TV one day and, you know, that part of California we were living is definitely known for food. Okay. Because the food is fantastic. It's so fresh because it's all grown right there. And there was a cooking show on the PBS that was playing and I'm flipping through the channels and all of a sudden I stop and this guy, he's in the most beautiful location. And I just got like chills when I saw it. There's like mountains behind him, snow-capped mountains. It's gorgeous. There's like wildflowers and he's talking and I about myself when I heard him. And I'm like, oh my God, that's the accent. That's the guy. And the guy in my dream, by the way, was extremely good looking. And he had an accent like that. And this was Scandinavian Cooking with Andreas Viestad. And I'm just like, holy shit, that's it right there. And then I was just obsessed. So then I'm like, okay, this kid is getting a Scandinavian name. Hands down. Because I was thinking about other names, but then I was like, no, this has to be it. So then I'm like looking up stuff. And I'm going through the names and I found, you know, I'm going, and I'm like looking through different things. And this is going on for weeks. And I'm like, no, this isn't it. And I'm like, I never got the guy's name because every time he was about to tell me, I would wake up or something, right? He never, like, there would always, something would happen in the dream where I couldn't get his name. And so I'm going through the internet and I came across this name and I just went, and I mean, I got like complete and utter like chills all over my body. I started freaking out. I was like hyperventilating almost. I'm like, that's the name right there. I just knew it was his name. So I chose that for the first name of my child. And then I'm like, okay, what are we going to do for the middle name? Because I want the middle name to be cool and it has to kind of go with the first name. So once again, watching TV, flipping through it, X Games was on. There was this dude and he was adorable. And he was, I think, Danish or something. And his name was Rune. And I was just like, okay, I fucking love that name. That is the shit. And it makes sense because Rune means secret. So, like, there you go. Bing, bing, bing. So, yeah, that's what I chose. So, fast forward, child's born, birth announcements get sent out. And we sent them to relatives that we don't even know. Okay. Like, because my husband was asking about, you know, from his mother's side of the family, like, oh, who should I send these to? And she was like giving him a list of names. So he's not really close with his mom. So, and she lives like in a different state. So it's like, we sent these out. And after we sent them out and everybody saw the name on her side of the family, they completely freaked out. They were like, what the hell? What the hell? How did you come up with this name? How did you come up with this name? I'm like, it kind of came to me via like dreams and experiences I was having. And I kind of explained, and they were like tripping out because no shit, this is the name of my husband's great grandfather from Norway. So that was weird. So that is, who was that then that was hanging out with me? Was it him? We will never, like, I won't probably know, but I mean, come on, like, I mean, it was very secretive about the whole situation, but obviously my son was meant to be born. My daughter called it. She knew he was coming. Children are very close to the divine because they've only been here and they haven't been corrupted by society's BS. So they're very open and they're very vocal about things, which is why when they do reincarnation studies, if a kid starts recalling stuff, they want you to like ask them questions about it. And they definitely, like, if your kid keeps having stuff like this, the University of Virginia is definitely like, please bring your kid in, we'd like to learn more. um but yeah, that's the story with that. So of course this whole story definitely plays into my writing. um it's wild. And it's definitely the inspiration for many things. So definitely, if you haven't read it yet, you really should, because it's entertaining. That's the point of it. I did make notes. Sorry, guys. So, what else did I want to talk about? I mean, I've been going for a while here. So, yeah. If you guys have any like questions, or you want to know more, if you want me to do more information about this, or how to look up via astrology, like how you can see the locations where you could have been in a past life, I can tell you right now, this book is definitely good for that. This book is definitely good for that. Like I said, I haven't read this one yet. I can't wait to go through my course, which I'm looking forward to big time. But yeah. To me, this is something that it's, I mean, death is scary, okay? And I think it's more scary for the people who are left behind, most definitely, because we're left wondering, we don't know. Like, we are left with like no answers. We have no further communication with those people per se. Sometimes people do come back and they will visit you after they have passed. That is a common thing that does happen. Don't take it lightly or just think it's just, whoa, it's wishful thinking for a dream. No, it isn't. They want you to know that they're okay, because they are, okay? Unless they are a psychopathic serial killer or something like this, they're probably going to be okay. So, yeah. And, if you delve deep into past lives and stuff, it's very interesting how life is reviewed in death. And just the experiences, how everybody has the same type of experience, especially like people who have near-death experiences. Like I said, I've had one of these. It was, I didn't want to come back, okay? And when you come back, I will tell you this. If you guys want me to talk about that, I can do another video, because this has gone really long. I was going to kind of talk about this in this one, but it's like I don't have time. But I will tell you this. When you come back into your body, it doesn't feel good. All right? That was extremely painful. And plus, I just know I've done this many times before, and it's like, what's on the other side? I think it was Socrates who mentioned that he was a huge fan of Hades. Adonius is his name. And he absolutely thought he was the coolest dude, because he's fair, he's just, he's not an asshole. And whatever he says to you in death is so beautiful and so sweet. His words are so wonderful that you don't want to come back. So, like, you want to stay. And often people do for a period of time before they return. I can look at my prenatal and I can see that I was like gone for like about 200 years before I returned. My husband, however, no. Some people are like come back instantly because they had something that they need to finish and they desperately need to finish. It's really fascinating stuff. Okay. It is something definitely I'm a very open-minded person, but believe it or not, I am kind of skeptical nature. See, I'm skeptical about stuff. I don't just jump on the train. I don't start believing stuff. I'm not one of these kind of people on social media where something bad happens and they just start like attacking everyone and, trying to cancel people or whatever, so immature. I wait and watch and see where things are going before I even open my mouth because I'm not dumb. Okay. Because you are making yourself into a target otherwise. Um, so I am this way with everything. I wait, I see, I study, and I don't open my mouth unless I know there's something to this. Hence the reason why we're talking about this today and why it's an emphasis in my book, because it's beautiful, really, when you kind of think about it. Anyhow, so that's my cue, folks. Sorry. That's it. Thank you guys for joining me. If you do want me to do more stuff and you want me to do the video of how to find out your location of where you were in previous lives, let me know. I will do that. That is talked about in here a little bit too. And, if you want me to talk about the NDEs or OBEs, I can share information about that. How to know also, if you're interested in how to know, like if you have any specific placements in your chart that can show that you are more open to, the other side of the veil, or that you are more open to experience more paranormal activity or something in your lifetime. There are placements that show this. I could do a thing about that if you guys are interested. Just let me know what you guys want to see. Leave a comment, and you got to leave a comment though. Okay. So make sure that you are subscribed to my channel and like this video. And thank you guys so much for listening to me go on about this. I mean, I could go off so much more about this and give you more examples if you want in different videos, but just let me know. Thank you guys for being with me, and I will catch you next time. Bye-bye.